couple of days ago, one of my bar mitzvah students told me this joke. A pregnant woman goes to the doctor. Suddenly, she starts yelling, "Can't, shouldn't, won't, wouldn't." She looks panicked, but the doctor reassures her, saying, "Don't worry, it's just your contractions." Ooh, I was expecting a little more of a laugh. Oh man, all right, tough crowd. I was also surprised to hear that joke from a 13-year-old. You just got it. Oh, okay, all right. Should I tell it again? It's usually the funnier the second time around, right? Yeah. My student didn't know how timely his joke was, because this Shabbat has been designated by the National Council of Jewish Women as Reproduction Shabbat. It's not what you think it is. As the organizers explain, as we began to envision a collective Jewish movement for abortion justice, we knew how important it was both to have a time to learn what our tradition teaches about reproductive freedom and to come together as a whole Jewish community to talk about these issues, to break stigma and become inspired to take action. And so Repro Shabbat was born. So what does Judaism teach us about reproductive rights and freedom? Let's start at the very beginning. As Genesis chapter 1 says, "And God created humans in God's image. In the image of God, God created them. Male and female, God created them. God blessed them and said to them, 'Be fertile and increase.'" The very first mitzvah in the Torah is the obligation to have children, and it is given as a blessing from God. Having children in the Torah isn't just an obligation and isn't just a blessing. It is a profound need as well. The longing to have children is a theme that runs throughout the Bible. The patriarchs, and especially the matriarchs, are consumed by the desire to procreate. Abraham can't enjoy or envision any of the blessings God has promised him, saying, "O eternal God, what can you give me, seeing that I shall die childless?" Women in the Bible will do anything. They beg and bargain and scheme in order to have children. To have a child, well, really, to have a son, is the greatest achievement, the greatest reward for a woman in the Bible. Nevertheless, however much Judaism exalts reproduction, Jewish law is quite clear that it is not an obligation or value that supersedes everything else. A fetus is not a person, according to Jewish law. It is considered to be part of the pregnant person's body up until the moment of birth. Therefore, when a pregnant person's life or health is in danger, she may, and in some cases must, terminate the pregnancy. Today, many authorities, even Orthodox authorities, extend the notion of pikuach nefesh, saving a life, to include the preservation of mental health, well-being, or even happiness of a woman. And therefore, they allow abortion for any number of reasons. Judaism has long acknowledged that women's reproduction is a complicated issue. The sages, for example, saw procreation as a man's obligation, but not a woman's. The Talmud offers several explanations for this ruling based on a close reading of Genesis, but the 19th century rabbi, Meir Simcha of Dvinsk, shows great insight in his explanation of the man's obligation. This is what he says. "Since pregnancy and birth involve a lot of pain for the mother, the Torah, whose ways are ways of pleasantness and peace, could not obligate a woman to endure such an ordeal." Even though having children was and still is widely seen as a woman's primary desire and primary purpose, Judaism also acknowledges that it is an ordeal that women should not be obligated to undergo. Shira Zemel, the co-director of the National Council of Jewish Women, writes very powerful about this issue of burden. Here's what she says. "I've had 4 pregnancies. I have 2 children. 2 of my pregnancies ended in miscarriage, and the other 2 resulted in the greatest joys of my life. but all four were a burden, emotionally and physically, personally and professionally. I had every advantage and privilege one can have when experiencing pregnancy. I am a married, white, cisgender, heterosexual woman. I navigated the reproductive health system through 4 pregnancies in a 2-income family with employee-sponsored health care and amazing doctors. With all of that support and access, my pregnancies were still burdens. And because our health system is riddled with inequity, pregnancy can be even more onerous for Black and Indigenous people, for other people of color, for those marginalized or struggling to make ends meet, for young people, people living with disabilities, people in rural communities, immigrants, and LGBTQ individuals. Being pregnant, trying to get pregnant, ending an unwanted pregnancy, giving birth, all of it will test you. Even those who experience pregnancy as a joy will face moments that ask more of them than they could ever have imagined themselves capable. We who create life are blessed and burdened by the imperatives of biology. Blessed and burdened. If ever there were an apt description not only of pregnancy and giving birth, but of being a mother, that would be it. For yet another reason that reproductive freedom is so essential is that being a mother is hard. Too hard to force upon someone who doesn't want to be one. Ironically, the society that teaches women that being a mother should be our highest priority and our proudest accomplishment is the same society that makes a mother's life so challenging. Too many women in this country don't have paid maternity leave, quality health care, or affordable child care. Many women who work full-time, earning less than their male counterparts, of course, still do the majority of housework and parenting when we get home. And when, for example, there's a global pandemic and kids can't go to school, it is primarily the women who quit our jobs to stay with our children, or who manage to keep our jobs while simultaneously caring for our children, driving ourselves to the brink of exhaustion and despair in the process. Women are told in ways large and small that our careers, our aspirations, our desires, and even our basic needs can and should be sacrificed for others, especially for our children. No wonder a group of moms in Massachusetts gathered this month to stand on a football field and just scream. Being a mom is one of my greatest blessings and one of my greatest burdens. The burden is bearable, not only because I have plenty of help carrying it, but also because it is a burden that I chose to carry. Behind me, on the curtain covering our holy ark, are the famous words from Deuteronomy, Uvacharta b'chayim lama'an tichiyeh ata v'zarecha. Choose life, that you and your offspring may live. Choosing life, making choices, including the choice to bring new life into the world. Making choices that preserve and enhance our own lives and the lives of future generations. Choosing life is a human right and a Jewish obligation. May we work together to ensure that every person is given that choice. Shabbat Shalom.